the design here calls for a low retaining wall to run from the house out here in the garden. As we look closely at it, the symbol for the miscanthus here, or the symbols, there are 3 of them, lie underneath the symbol for the retaining wall, which gives an ugly appearance. What we want to do is to pick these and use one of the more subtle tools under the draw order. We could send the wall to the back if you like, but we want to send, or we want to bring these above that object, and now we've achieved what we want. Let's look at another example of this arrange stacking order tool. If we go to tools and send under an object, we pick the tool, select the objects. We want to make sure all of these understory symbols here, I'll pick everything that should be underneath the taller dogwood. I think I've got them all now, and we can hit enter, and the reference object is the taller dogwood. So now if we have a little look here, you may be able to see that because we've got transparency on the trunk, we can still see a little bit of it, but the majority of shapes through there are under, and that gives us a much nicer look to it. I was going to say clearly, you can see that those understory parts are indeed under. It's a little difficult to see because we put some transparency on here, so let's make that back to solid. 255 is the transparency for solid. Now you can see much better that the little squiggles there that constitute plants underneath go behind the branch, and we should be able to see it quite clearly here now. The understory plants are now hidden by the taller dogwood tree that will dominate that small patch. So manipulating the stacking order of entities is really quite straightforward. You've got some subtle tools there and some large scale send to the back or bring to the front, or then send under or above individual objects. Manipulating the stacking order of entities is also important in layout space. Let's imagine that if we move here, we want to put in this zone through here, a floating viewport to hold the plant schedule information. A new floating viewport is created by right-clicking over the tab and say add a viewport. So I'll set a new viewport up like so, then being careful to move the mouse outside of the earlier larger viewport, I double click. That gives me a magenta box which I can size and set so that I come in as tightly as I can to the plant schedule box, and then right click and display on the layout. You'll notice that the edge of the floating viewport is dotted, so right click and deactivate the viewport. So there's our viewport sitting comfortably at the top of the screen. What I'm now going to do is to set the color of the floating viewport to white, so it'll be white on a it'll be white on a white background. So it's color 255, and let me unselect all. So now you can see the sheet with the plant schedule. But we could add a little bit of interest, if you like, to this design by saying draw rectangle 2 points, and just put a rectangle like so around that area. We'll make the color of the rectangle some sort of buff color. I'll select a color, take something like this one here, and I'll turn fill on, but I'll give the transparency maybe only 50, might even have to go less, and we'll click out here and unselect all. So there we've got a rectangle, but it needs to be sent to the back. So it's Tools, Draw Order, Send to the back. Now our text sits nice and clear above that background.